What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. My name is Brad, and this is our 31st episode of our show. As you can see, Miguel had something come up last minute, so I'm doing this one alone tonight, but we're going to press on, and you guys are stuck with me. I'm seeing Green Day tomorrow, so I'm in a Green Day kick. But again, tonight on the show, we are going to check out the August issue of Total Film and discuss its cover story on Halloween Kills, and we're going to break that down right here on the show. I hope you all are doing well. Today is July 26th. It is Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. And let me know, what'd you watch this week? Let me know. If you're listening on Spotify or any of the other podcast platforms, tweet at us at We Talk the Movies. If you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let us know what you watched. Tell us about it. I watched the end of Little Fires Everywhere with my wife. It was actually a really, really good show. She turned me on to that series, limited series, and it is based on a novel. Really good drama series. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. And what else did I watch? I watched a little bit of The Sopranos too. Watched a couple episodes of The Sopranos. I watched Mr. Holland's Opus as well. If you've ever seen that film, really good Richard Dreyfuss film. And as a music teacher, that was really, really cool to see too. So I really enjoyed watching Little Fires Everywhere and Mr. Holland's Opus as well. So let's not take any more time here. Let's hop in and check out this Halloween Kills article. Now I will say I went to 5 different places. Couldn't find this. Couldn't find a physical copy of Total Film. I looked at Barnes & Noble. I looked at Kroger. I looked at Walmart. I looked at a few different places that said they carried Total Film. Couldn't find it. They had an issue from a couple months ago, but they didn't have the Halloween Kills issue. So hopefully I'll check back in this week and maybe they'll have one by then. I'm not sure. But let's check out the cover story. Amazing picture right there of Michael with the halogen picking up the firefighter. Kind of what we saw in the trailer, although this is a little bit of a different angle. Fire Walk with Me. It's funny, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the title of that picture is Fire Walk with Me. That's pretty dope. So let's read this thing. All right. Call a film Halloween Kills and you'd better deliver. Over 43 years, 4 separate timelines, and 10 blood-soaked rampages, masked maniac Michael Myers has slaughtered over 120 unsuspecting residents of Haddonfield, Illinois, on the spookiest night of the year, utilizing everything from a trusty chef's knife to an especially pointy tripod in his single-minded pursuit of Laurie Strode. Myers then is no slouch, when it comes to butchering the innocent, but his body count is set to skyrocket when Kills hits screens later this year. We know it's going to be crazy. We know the kill count of this movie is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen for the Halloween franchise. Of course, I'm sure Jason's kill count is much larger than Myers is, but anyways, I digress. It's intense and brutal, just brutal, says Jamie Lee Curtis of the follow-up to Halloween 2018, itself a direct sequel to John Carpenter's original trailblazing slasher. There's an incredible amount of killing in this movie, adds Danny McBride, the film's co-writer. It's so bloody, it's wild. David just went for it. This is a vicious sequel. It's relentless. Same kind of stuff goes along with everything we've heard about Halloween Kills up to this point. It is going to be wild, and it is going to be a crazy ride from top to bottom. It's going to be a little bit different. Miguel and I have kind of talked about this a little bit on some of our past episodes and in some of the video clips on our channel. This one is going to be a little bit different, I think, than many of the entries from the Halloween franchise before this, which, a lot of people are going to like that. A lot of people are going to hate that. I hope that it's a happy medium. I really do. as much as I enjoyed Halloween 2018, I felt like a lot of the suspenseful moments um, from the original were kind of absent in that entry. So my hope is that while Halloween Kills is going to be bloody and it's going to be violent and it's going to be a crazy, crazy time, uh, I hope that they bring back some of Michael's stalking behavior, his like cat-like uh, behavior. I want to see Michael stalking and kind of lurking in the shadows a little bit too. So I hope it's balanced. I don't know if we're going to get that, especially with what Danny McBride just said. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So let's keep going here. Green completed work on Halloween Kills in July 2020, right around the time the decision was made to push the film back by 12 months to avoid a compromised theatrical experience. He hasn't watched it since, both to resist any temptation to tweak things here and there and cause trouble for everyone. And also, he has a second opportunity to watch it fresh with an audience. That's why you make horror movies, says Green, who, along with McBride, who is currently in production on the second season of HBO series. We'll have to scroll to the next page to see that. Again, really, really cool picture. Let's go to the second page. There it is. Here's the second page. Make it a little bit bigger for me. The text is really, really, really small. Righteous Gemstones. That's what David Gordon Green's HBO series is called. Talking about horror films, you make them for the crowds. You make it for those reactions. You make it for that community, which is just so loving. It's exhilarating as a filmmaker to be part of that connection. And I think this film will have a really big following. I think people will be extremely excited, as we all are, to see this. And, you know, there are a lot of questions, especially knowing what we know now, about what came out with this article about Halloween Kills and Ends not taking place on the same night. Spoiler alert, I should have said that, by the way. But, you know, I'm just, this movie has me extremely curious because it seems like they're trying to pack a lot of information in, I believe the runtime is just over an hour and 40 minutes. So there's going to be a lot. It's going to be very jam-packed. My prediction, I think it's going to be a really jam-packed movie. Let's go on here. No moment proved more exhilarating for Team Halloween than the film's premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2018, not least because success was far from a sure thing. By that point, it had been 9 years since Michael Myers last terrorized Haddonfield in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, a film that has its advocates, but it's generally considered a grueling low point for the series. Yeah. I will say though, I like H2 better than I like Resurrection. I can't do Resurrection. I just can't. I enjoy the first maybe 10 minutes of Resurrection, and then that's about it. I really don't care for anything after that point. In the years that followed, long-serving producer Malik Akkad, the son of legendary Halloween producer Mustafa Akkad, had plenty of opportunities to bring the shape back to screens. There was only one problem. They were crazy, crazy bad ideas, Akkad remarks. Some of the pitches that I heard, oh my god, I waited it out for 7 years. I wasn't going to make a piece of junk like they wanted me to. Once Akkad got out from the previous studio in 2016 and teamed up with Universal, the stars quickly aligned. Within many months, John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jason Blum, and David Gordon Green had all signed on to make a new Halloween that would serve as an authentic sequel to Carpenter's 78 slasher. The signs were certainly promising, but no one, least of all the film's creative team, knew if audiences would embrace their vision. And you know what? I understand. I mean, I don't because I don't work in the industry, but I can see how that could have been scary because I think out of any of the horror franchises, I feel like Halloween probably has the biggest cult following out of any of them. And everybody can try to explain it all they want. It's a great series. It really is, highs and lows. I'll give it that. So let's move on here. The franchise means so much to me, and I know how much it means to fans. What we were just talking about, it means so much to fans everywhere. We really just didn't want to disappoint people. As the film played and as each crushed skull, snapped neck, and knowing nod to Halloween's past was greeted with gleeful approval by the vocal TIFF audience, nerves turned to excitement. Going up on that stage after it was done and seeing how much fun everyone had, it was overwhelming, says McBride. I turned to David and was like, I don't really see how anything in our careers will be more fulfilling than what we've just experienced. And that's really cool for them. I really do think that they did an incredible job uh, bringing it back to its roots. And again, was Halloween 2018 a perfect film? Hell no, it wasn't a perfect film. But I think it really did feel like it was a sequel to the original film. And again, Halloween 2 from 1981 is one of my favorite sequels, if not my favorite sequel. But after Halloween 2, the sequels kind of felt a little bit removed from the original film. And as much as I love them, I love 4, I love 6, I even love 5. I mean, again, I really don't mind any of them except for Resurrection. Resurrection is kind of where I draw the line. Anyways, it was a moment that marked the latest milestone in a 25-year journey for McBride and Green. The pair first met in college and bonded over a shared love of cinema after realizing they owned many of the same VHS tapes, Halloween included. Standing on a stage in Toronto brought everything full circle. It was a fulfillment of our childhood dreams in a lot of ways, Green says plainly. Halloween is a VHS cassette that I still have in my office as a reminder. That's pretty cool. It's one of the films that inspired me. It's right next to my copy of The Never-Ending Story, whatever that's worth. But it's so fun that in the moment we could look over at each other and close our eyes for a second and really be thankful. The reception out of Toronto and subsequent box office haul of 255 million worldwide, far and away a franchise best, practically guaranteed a sequel or two, but Green and McBride had been dreaming bigger from the beginning. When David and I first met, the conversation that he and Danny had conceived a trilogy, Curtis recalls. That's interesting. I didn't know that they originally wanted to do a trilogy. I didn't know that was like their original plan. I thought Halloween Kills and Ends were conceived after the release of 2018 just because it was so popular. It did so well. I believe it was the second highest grossing horror release of all time. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments below. They understood that there was much more to this story to tell than Halloween 2018. Both agreed that their first Halloween needed to feel conclusive in and of itself, and that committing to sequels, which may never get made if the first film didn't resonate, would be hubristic at best, foolhardy at worst. As Universal learnt to their cost a year earlier with the ignominious collapse of the Dark Universe. But conversations also turned to the future and how to avoid the pitfalls of the slasher sequel. The sequel is always where it shits the bed, McBride notes, not inaccurately. Not inaccurately, yeah. I mean, if you look at, even given the cult following of 4 and 5 and 6, I mean, look at Halloween 6. It's absurd. I mean, it's literally absurd. And again, I love that film. I really do. I love the producer's cut of that film. But if you really look at it and you think about it logically, the film is absurd. The storyline is it's unreal. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just kind of crazy. We really wanted to find a way to sidestep that. Incorporating a lot of ideas developed for Halloween 2018, it was decided that Halloween Kills would pick up moments after the ending of the first film, which with Michael still trapped in Laurie's purpose-built cell as a Chez Strode burns around him. 1981's Halloween 2, scripted by Carpenter and Deborah Hill, is similarly set on the same night as its predecessor, so Green naturally sought Carpenter's sage advice. I think it's pretty interesting that at the end of Halloween 2, the original sequel, Michael is burning. And at the end of Halloween 2018, Michael is also burning. Kind of cool. I never really thought about that until just now. It's pretty cool. It's kind of symbolic. I wonder if they did that on purpose. or if they just thought it was a cool way to end the film. I know that wasn't the original ending for the film. I believe the original ending for Halloween 2018 had Laurie and Michael duke it out, I believe in the front yard or something. And Laurie is stabbed, and Michael is shot with a crossbow. And I believe they both died at the end. At the original ending of Halloween 2018, I believe Laurie and Michael were both supposed to die. Which makes me think they didn't know that it was going to be a trilogy, because why would they have shot that ending if they wanted to continue the story? That's a good question. I don't know. Sure enough, a lot of the obstacles that I was facing, he laughed at, meaning John Carpenter, and said that they were talking about the same things in the early 80s. He thought it was a funny thing to revisit a lot of the problems that they had and trying to find creative ways out of them. The solution that Green and McBride hit upon was to turn a series about the obsessive pursuit of a single woman by a madman in a mask into an ensemble tale centered around the residents of Haddonfield, all whom have suffered at Michael's hands. As Green puts it, Kills is a much bigger story than a man with a knife in a house go victim by victim. It's a plague of fear. As word hits Haddonfield of what's out there, and some of it's true and some of it's not, it's building the myth of this murderer. It's the larger, pervasive spread of fear and how that affects a community. That's cool. That is different, and I think that is why Halloween Kills has the chance to be perhaps my favorite sequel from the franchise. And yes, I'm going to go there. I really think that this movie can be something extraordinarily special. But I don't know. Even the news that we just found out about Kills and Ends, I don't know. I mean, things seem like they're changing a little bit for how the trilogy is going to conclude. And again, I think that it needs to be the end. I don't think Halloween Kills needs to, Halloween Ends needs to go to another sequel. Ends needs to be the end, and I will die on that hill. I've said it a million times over the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of days since that news came out. In 2018, with its themes of generational trauma inflicted on all three Strode women, or Halloween as Curtis refers to them, Halloween resonated unexpectedly with the still explosive #MeToo movement. Once again, Green and McBride have found that the themes they're exploring within the confines of a mainstream horror movie are unexpectedly mirroring events beyond the screen. Trauma was Act 1, if you will, Curtis puts forward. There was a confluence between the Me Too movement and the Halloween 2018 movie, with Laurie Strode representing 40 years of oppression and her saying, "I am not taking it anymore." I think it was a genuine reason why the 2018 movie was so profoundly successful. Now, David and Danny did not know that on January 6th there would be a Capitol riot, she continues. David and Danny did not know that George Floyd was going to be killed and it was going to stimulate large masses of people. I agree there are undertones of things like that. I really do. I'm not sure the extent that they... I don't know. I'm not sure if that was something they consciously thought about as they were writing the film. I'm really not sure. But I think it's cool. I think it's cool to have, whether it's political or not, like social commentary in a film. That's cool. And I dig that. Going on to the next page here, this shot really intrigues me. If you're watching on YouTube, you see what I'm talking about. Karen holding the mask. Come and get it! I don't know. I really, and I said it before, haven't read the leaked script. Don't know what happens. Have not read it. Don't want to read it. Don't send it to me. I don't care. I think Karen dies in this movie. I think she's the most likely to die. I think it makes sense for her to die. The picture below that as well, with Barker and everyone in the hospital looking panicked, that really intrigues me too. I feel like something is going to go down at the hospital. I just don't know what yet. I I don't know. Part of me feels like Michael is going to get injured and taken to the hospital, but another part of me is kind of like, I don't that you've built him up as being this unstoppable, the more he kills the more he transcends, and he's the essence of evil. I mean, he I feel like it's going to be strange if the essence of evil gets hit over the head and is taken to the hospital. You know what I mean? I don't want to see him injured. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. I don't get it. Um but so be it. I mean, I'm curious to see what the heck goes on in the hospital, just because, you know, I don't know. I don't know. It's really interesting. Maybe that'll be the spark between Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends that kind of that allows it to push forward. I feel I don't know if Halloween Kills is going to end on a cliffhanger or not. Um, but maybe him being taken to the hospital and something happening at the hospital is what allows Halloween Ends to jump 2 or 3, 4 years in the future. As we know now, that is the case of, we know that's the case. So I don't know. Really interesting. I'm thinking the hospital will be towards the end of the film, but these people look panicked. I mean, let's be honest. They look like they're looking at something that is panicking them. So I don't know. Interesting. Let's keep reading. We do not trust you to do it for us, and that's exactly what Halloween Kills is about. An entire town saying, we are taking this on ourselves. It shows that David and Danny have a divining rod. They're future thinkers. They have some idea of what's happening in the world, and they're distilling it through their writing. Cool. Very cool. Green and McBride can't account for their precog powers. I have no clue, chuckles McBride, only that Laurie Strode and her evolution as a character has driven a lot of the major decisions in their Halloween trilogy. Laurie is a voice of both insight and reason that is trying to give a volatile community some sense of purpose here. It's less about vengeance and more about a calculated philosophy of how to process evil. That's really, really cool. Processing evil, and that kind of goes back to what David Gordon Green said about, Halloween Kills is about the spread of fear and misinformation and panic, and how people are processing the situation, how they're processing the fact that Michael should not be able to do half of the things that he does, yet he still does them. That's really interesting, and I actually quite like that. Processing evil. Pointing out that Laurie is not the main character of Halloween Kills, but that she is the emotional core of it. I could always turn to her for help in voicing these questions of the themes of this movie. With Laurie set to spend the majority of the film in Haddonfield Memorial Hospital fighting for her life after taking a knife to the gut in the first film, Halloween Kills opens up opportunities where heroes can shine and others can show their true colors and fall, according to Green. One of the characters who has already ascended to hero status is Laurie's daughter Karen. I don't know if I'd say hero status, whose gotcha moment at the film's climax blew the roof off that Toronto screening. For Judy Greer, a supporting actor extraordinaire, it was a rare moment in the spotlight she soon won't forget, and one that fills directly into Karen's mindset in Halloween Kills. I liked that scene. I really did. This is a cool shot, by the way, of the three of them on the back of the truck as well. I liked the gotcha scene, where Michael steps out and Karen shoots him in the cheek, and you get the graze on the right side of the cheek. I don't know if I'd say she's hero status yet. I don't think she's like Laurie level hero status. But I think from what I understand, there is some really, really big character development for Karen's character. And that's a tongue twister. Karen's character. Character development for Karen's character. And I really am excited to see what happens with Karen in Halloween Kills. And that's why I think she's the most likely to die, because for you have to put yourself in Allison's shoes. Yes, it's been 3 years since Halloween 2018 came out. Allison, the first Allison is hearing of, or not hearing of, but really being thrown into the Michael Myers trauma thing, is tonight. It's been over the last 8 hours. It hasn't been, if you think about Karen and her journey, did Karen ever have a run-in with Michael before tonight? No. and I say tonight, I mean Halloween 2018. She never had a physical run-in with him, but the repercussions of Laurie's trauma from 1978 did affect her. I mean, we know Karen was taken away from Laurie by Child Protective Services. Laurie was trying to teach Karen how to fight, how to shoot guns, how to use knives. And it's kind of like, whoa, like that would be pretty traumatic for a little kid who doesn't understand why they're having to do all of these things. So I am excited to see Karen's her character arc in this movie, and I think if she does really ascend to hero status, as this article points out, I do think that Karen will. I think her character will really flip because, to be completely honest, I like Judy Greer. It's nothing against Judy Greer. I just really didn't like Karen's character in the film to be all that much, or I didn't like her all that much. I mean, she was fine. I didn't have a problem with her necessarily. She just, she kind of was just like lukewarm for me. Like it was okay. Her character was fine. Um, she didn't really add anything unbelievable to Halloween 2018, but hopefully Halloween Kens. I hate myself. Halloween Kills will change that, and she will have a much larger arc. Imagine being me, sitting in that audience, seeing that for the first time. That's a moment I hope I remember for the rest of my life, says Greer, with a burst of energy down the phone, adding that she's still in the moment in Halloween Kills. The adrenaline is still coursing through her veins. It's not like Karen has a couple of months to be like, I'm awesome, I'm a badass, David Gordon Green said to me when we were shooting. I want this to be like Mad Max, where we're just going, we're going, where Karen comes to terms with her newfound badassery and mourns the death of her husband, which is something that I don't even think about as much. Karen and Allison lost a husband and a dad. That's a big deal. That is a very big emotional point in their character arcs because, again, was he a major character? No. Did I really love him? No. Was I really upset, or were any of us really upset that Peanut Butter on My Penis guy died? No. But it's a really, really big tipping point for those two characters because he meant a lot to them. He was their husband and their father. Whereas Karen, who has dealt with psychologically with her mother more intimately, is trying to resist these temptations. In Halloween Kills, Michael Myers' reign of terror extends to every corner of Haddonfield. As Curtis explains, the great device that David and Danny came up with is trauma didn't just affect Laurie Strode. Trauma has a concentric circles. Anyone who had a near miss with Michael Myers is traumatized. This allowed Green and McBride to explore Haddonfield and its inhabitants to a greater extent than ever before, bringing characters who may have had near misses with Michael Myers in their first film to the forefront and checking in on some familiar faces from the original Halloween. Let's keep going. I was revisiting the original film and just wondered about who was up to what in that world, Green recalls. Let me scroll over here. Here we go. I was thinking Charles Cyphers is a retired actor, but what would Sheriff Brackett be doing right now? And could I somehow sweet talk him into joining us again? Alongside Cyphers, both Nancy Stevens, who played Nurse Marion Chambers, and Kyle Richards, one of the two children Laurie found herself looking after on the night he came home, will reprise their roles in Kills. As for returning characters from Halloween 2018, there's a couple that is going off to a Halloween party, dressed up like a doctor and nurse, who narrowly escape death when Michael's going door to door. They really made an impact on me because I thought about them having been so close to an encounter with him, and could we bring them face to face with Michael in a way they might not be so lucky to escape this time. That part of the puzzle that part of the puzzle, there we go, was really fun for me. And I think those are Julian's parents, by the way. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but from what I understand, those are Julian's parents that we saw. Obviously, when Michael is going door to door, he walks past the baby, he walks out onto the street where they're all trick-or-treating, and his mom actually kind of gives him a strange look and then gets in the car. And of course, Julian's dad is like, I gotta go grab my stethoscope, whatever. They're going to a party, they're going somewhere, they're dressed up. Another key returning character, though not played by the original actor Brian Andrews, is Tommy Doyle, the second of Laurie's young wards on that fateful evening in 1978. It's plugging into so much history. To play Tommy Doyle was really a thrill, says Anthony Michael Hall, who, armed with a baseball bat, buzz cut, and determination to take Michael down, looks significantly more intimidating than he did during his Breakfast Club years. I always think that too. It's kind of funny seeing Anthony Michael Hall grown. Like, I don't know if I feel like he just should stay 17 for the rest of his life, but it's strange that I always picture him in The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles or Vacation or something like that. One thing which was interesting is that threat of "you can't kill the boogeyman." I love that phrase. I think that starts with Tommy Doyle, which makes sense because Tommy Doyle's an entire character arc, though he was a kid in the original film, was "it's the boogeyman, it's the boogeyman, it's the boogeyman," and Laurie's like, "there is no boogeyman. Stop it. You're scaring Lindsay. This is ridiculous. There is no boogeyman. We are fine." And then, of course, at the end of the movie, when Laurie says, "Was that the boogeyman?" or "it was the boogeyman," excuse me, as she says in the original film, Tommy was right. And now Tommy is saying, you can't kill the boogeyman. So now that Tommy is old enough to fight back, he's old enough to, he's obviously a pretty stocky guy, and he's angry. He's got some trauma, like we've talked about a few minutes ago. I mean, there's trauma with all of these characters. It's not just Laurie. And really, that's one of the things that I'm most interested in for Kills is I really want to explore the trauma of all of these other characters as well and how 1978 affected them. I think that's going to be a really, really cool piece of this puzzle. He also says it's very intense. It really ramps up. Oh God, here we go. Doyle was previously played by Paul Rudd in 1995's The Curse of Michael Myers, one of the actor's earliest roles. Green, who previously worked with Rudd on Prince Avalanche, even approached the Ant-Man actor to reprise his role in Kills. Scheduling prohibited what Green calls a novelty idea, but Rudd did not pass a message along to his successor. Or did pass a message along to his successor, excuse me. A couple of weeks into production, David called me and said he just had spoken to Paul Rudd, Hall recounts. I admire Paul's work a lot, so he gave me his blessing on the film, which was nice of him to do, but my take on the character is quite separate. Good. I don't know why David Gordon Green even tried to get Paul Rudd back. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like he played him 3 or 4 times. You know what I mean? It's not like a situation of, Jamie Lee Curtis gave Scout Taylor Compton her blessing when Rob Zombie did his film, or he played him one time. I mean, and honestly, even Brian Andrews, although I think Brian Andrews has more, he has more say to give a blessing because he played him in the original film than Paul Rudd does. And that's not a knock at Paul Rudd at all. I love Paul Rudd. I really, really do. I think Paul Rudd is a great actor. But I don't really think he needed his blessing. And I think if they would have cast Paul Rudd as Tommy, it would have confused people, because it was like, are we negating the sequels or are we not? And I don't know. I'm really, really happy that that they didn't cast Paul Rudd. And I also really like Anthony Michael Hall, and I think he kind of bears a striking resemblance to Brian Andrews. Like, looking at Brian Andrews as a kid and looking at Anthony Michael Hall as an adult, like, I feel like I could actually see them being the same person, even though they're not. So I'm glad they didn't cast Paul Rudd. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Despite Doyle's comeback, the much maligned Cult of Thorn won't be making an unwelcome return in Halloween Kills, thank God. On the contrary, Green and McBride have been determined to avoid any explanation of Michael Myers, supernatural or otherwise, from the start. Very good. You don't want to reveal too much, Green says. I don't want to know Michael's psychological backstory. I feel like the mystery is best left unsaid. I don't want to see too much of him. I don't want to be very specific about how he's lit. The mystique of Michael, I'll say, is extremely important to preserving what's scary about him. Let me switch pages here. One of the biggest challenges for Green in working on Halloween Kills was controlling Michael's image, a task easier said than done, as some of the goofier depictions of the character in the past have proved. My obsessive compulse is to be very protective of how we see the shape. So less is more, and yeah, I don't always win those battles, but I'm always fighting them. One of Green's recent battles was over the film's trailer, which appears to give away a significant amount of the film's kills and plot beats. There's an F-load of spoilers, huh? Green cites. That was a long journey. Spoiler or not, the trailer does tease what's set to be a major moment in Halloween Kills, Karen removing Michael's mask. I was so excited, I thought it was really cool, Greer says, of first hitting Karen's big moments in the script. We have a video on this about this on our channel as well. I really don't think the trailer gave away too much. I don't. I think it was fine. I think the trailer was completely fine. I know people think that it's too much, but I thought it was okay. And from what I understand, from what I've been told, the trailer really didn't show very much. It really didn't. So I think if you're worried about the trailer being like, oh, well, they showed every kill, might as well not even go see the movie. No, it didn't. I think there's a lot more left to this movie that we have not seen yet. If you're like me and Miguel and you haven't read the script. With this type of story, you've got to keep challenging the premise, otherwise it's another 40 years where we're running from this guy. You have to keep making the stakes higher. It's also a moment that consciously calling back to the climax of the original Halloween, where Laurie briefly manages to wrestle Michael's mask off of his head. It's digging deeper into these little moments of Carpenter's film, Green explains. It's something that we know startled Michael. He scrambles to put it back on out of some insecurity or whatever it is. That disguise is his superpower, so if you need to bait him and try to remove his mythical creature, I thought that felt like a very provocative device to reuse. And that's really, really interesting, and I haven't really thought about it that way. Because you're right, in Tony Moran's scene in the original Halloween, when Laurie rips the mask off as Loomis is running up the stairs, he does frantically go to get it back on. He looks kind of taken back, like he's suddenly naked and he can't even function without it on. It's strange. Again, we don't need to explain it. We don't need to know why he freaked out, but he freaked out. So that's going to be interesting. I'll be curious to see how he reacts now when the mask is taken off his head, because I'm not going to lie, it's going to feel kind of strange if Michael is like, oh, 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 and he's trying to get it back on. That's going to feel kind of strange, but we'll see. One device utilized to somewhat divisive effect in Halloween 2018 was kick-ass nostalgia of the first film's score and exploring new sonic spaces for the series. This film has some different tones that we were exploring, and he has very generously gave us the musical escort to those tones, Green says. There's some really vibrant new tracks. To me, the soundtrack is even better than the last one. With everyone but the marketing department's work on Halloween Kills long finished, attention has now turned to the trilogy capper Halloween Ends. Here we go, people. Here we go. Green and McBride already know exactly where they're taking Strode and company, for one simple reason. The script was written a year ago. We wrote Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends at the same time, McBride confirms. We wrote them both so that we had a clear vision of where everything is going, and we weren't just doing a greatest hits each time, but that it was going to be a journey. I really do feel like each of these films is completely distinct and unique, and they all connect to each other in a way that I don't feel is repetitive, but it just makes for an epic, bigger story, which I thought was exciting. Cool. I have no problems or issues with anything that Danny McBride just said. I think that's cool. Initially planned for late 2020, filming on Halloween Ends is now unlikely to start until the new year, which there you have it. So my guess would probably be February, March, April, somewhere in there that they'll film Ends, which maybe sort of late. I don't know. I'm trying to think when they filmed Kills. Kills was filmed a year before it was supposed to release, even without the COVID delay. I don't know. Interesting. Initially planned for late 2020, filming on Halloween Ends is we just read that. And while the pandemic played havoc with Kills release plans, the additional year will only be to the betterment of the upcoming threequel. The script has evolved a little bit since last year, Green says. We had the opportunity to wake up with a new idea, meditate on it for a year, and see how that's evolved in a really good way. The year hiatus will also feed into the structure of the film, which will jump forward a few years following the events of Halloween Kills. We're able to use the authentic time clock between Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, so that's interesting. There will be a bit more of a linear time that acknowledges the reality of our years between productions. It allows us to imagine what these characters' lives have been like after having processed these events over a few years. This still baffles me. You know, we talked about this news a few days ago when, or, you know, the end of last week when it dropped, and I'm still, uh, it still baffles me. I think, you know, obviously, like I said before, things change, um, but I don't know, man. It just, I feel like it makes sense for 18 kills and ends to all take place on the same night. When I saw the Halloween Ends title, when that was revealed with kills, um, you know, in 2019, my initial instinct was that, oh, Halloween Ends is going to be the end of the night. You know, they're gonna take place on the same night. That's what we had heard all along, and I do think that was the original intent. My Where I'm going to leave this is, I hope and I pray that there is a good, legitimate reason for wanting to push ends a few more years or into the future, the story into the future. I don't know. I've heard a couple people speculate that they might do the Halloween Returns thing and have the big climax of the entire trilogy take place in Smith's Grove. Maybe Michael is about to escape, but he doesn't. Laurie goes there to stop him. I don't know. I just, my fear is that Halloween Kills is going to be spectacular and Halloween Ends is going to suck. And I'm sorry, you know, that's kind of putting it bluntly, and that may even be over exaggerating a little bit. I don't think it's going to suck. I just worry about where it's going. I hope they have a really, really great reason why they're going to make that time jump and push it 3, 4 years into the future. I don't know. I mean, because you also have to explain, where have all of our characters been? The survivors of Halloween Kills, where have they been the last few years? What's happened to Laurie? What's happened to Michael? Is he just going to walk off, or is it going to be like a Halloween 4 thing where somehow he just manages to, or excuse me, Halloween 5 where he's just gone? I mean, I don't know. It poses way too many questions for comfort. And as we know, this franchise and these films work best in their simplicity. They really do. So I don't know. I am completely intrigued and kind of baffled by the fact that they're jumping a few years in the future. I just hope that there's a good reason. That's where I'll leave it. I hope there is a really good reason as to why they're pushing Halloween Ends a few years later. Let's finish this guy out. Producer Malika Akkad hints that the last one is going to be way more contained than Halloween 2018 or Halloween Kills. Something Green reiterates while pointing out that as a filmmaker generally, he has an aversion to making the same type of film twice. A fact that extends each film and his Halloween trilogy. I get engaged by doing something different. If I was just going to be repetitive, I would hand the reins off to someone else. When you have that opportunity within an established franchise, it's really fun to think about how you can show different tones and perspectives and evolve. As for Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the few people to have even read the script for Halloween Ends, after 43 years and counting, she's preparing to potentially, maybe, probably say goodbye to Laurie Strode. I would hope so. I loved some JLC. I love her. Love Laurie Strode. But it's time. It really is. It's time to move on. I would say, and when I say, I don't mean move on as in let's do more sequels in this. From this, Laurie dies and ends, and then there's 6 more sequels. I don't mean that. Ends needs to be the end of the original timeline. The original incarnation of Myers is done after Ends. We will never have it again. And that is okay. You know it's going to get remade. We're going to get more Myers. Just not the original Myers. Just not Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode. I would say, given what I know about the next movie, I think it will be the last time that I play her, Curtis reveals. And I'm not saying something like, oh, it's because I die. It's nothing to do with that. I'm talking about emotionally what they have constructed. I think it will be a spectacular way to end this trilogy. Sounds like Michael Myers is about to make another killing. Halloween Kills opens in cinemas on October 15th, 2021. There we have it. There's the Total Film article from August. So what did you think? There was a lot in there, talking about Halloween Ends getting pushed a couple years in the future, talking about all of our returning characters, the spread of fear and panic throughout Haddonfield and throughout the community. There's a lot, and I stand by what I said when we first started going through this article. There is a lot that they are trying to shove in this movie, and I just hope that everything is done well. I think I'm fine with having a chaotic, wild, packed movie. That's cool. But I hope that there's value, and I hope that there's depth to all of our characters. I hope that the each decision, each kill, each moment in the film, I hope that there is some legitimate depth to each character and to each moment. So guys, that's going to do it for me and this episode of Let's Talk Movies. Thanks so much for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of the Total Film Halloween Kills magazine from August, or from next month, coming August. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. New episodes of Let's Talk Movies and Let's Talk Movie News drop every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple and Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at We Talk the Movies. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you this Friday for Let's Talk Movie News. Take care, everybody. Bye.